Good afternoon, everybody. Hope you guys are doing well. Staying warm if you're in Calgary. It's a little chilly out there today. We'll just make sure we can see everybody. Hi, Tammy. Hi, Jennifer. Hey, Carrie. I can't see everybody who's popping on. Sometimes I can just see a name here and there. I know, it's so cold. It was snowing earlier. At least it's not snowing now, but definitely living up to the May long weekend weather. Hey, Stacy. Hi, Elaine. Oh no, Tamara, no heat. That is not good. You have your heating pad, your toque, and your scarf. Tamara needs her furnace fixed. If anyone has a good furnace fixer they want to send over. Hello, Rosie. You haven't put the heater away yet. No, don't ever. No snow here. Well, that's good, Elaine. Hi, Glenda. Hi, Angela. Have you guys had a chance to look at this beautiful Salvaged Patina Distress? It's so nice. I love all the demos that people are doing with it and different ways you can use it, and it's such a pretty color. I was playing with that today. I did a scrapbook layout today. So, quite proud of myself for getting all that done. But I still need to do some cleaning and all that kind of stuff. How was everyone's week? Have you had a chance to relax or do any crafting? Or are you working? You have it all, Glenda? Yes, it's such a great color. I don't know how you could not. How you could pick. Just got your Salvaged Patina from Sandy? Ooh, yay. Yeah, I usually actually don't buy the distress paint just because I find that I don't use a whole lot of it, but I saw a really neat technique, and so I bought it this time, and I'm really happy that I did. You're working, Tammy? Hi, Monica. Hi, Doris. Well, I'm going to show you some of the samples that I did. We can play a little bit with the distress products there. Sandy's going to come on live around 4, so about just after we're done here. You got the complete set. I think it's a wonderful, really wonderful color to have the whole set. Hi, Jennifer. So Sandy will be on about 4. She's got a bunch of kits that she's been bundling up, so really fun products to kind of get you scrapbooking with a whole kit full of stuff at a really good price. She's going to show you that after I am done. And I thought we would play around with this gear folder. So these, I had showed them, I don't know, a couple of weeks ago, and I still had them here, and I thought, you know what, I really love this gear. And I'll give you a look at the other ones there. They're Memory Box. It's called Open Studio, but it's by Memory Box, and they're one of the 3D folders, so they're thicker, and they give you that really deep impression. So I thought we'd play around with that, and we're gonna make this card with some of the distress products. But I also put this one together because I really like, you know, gears with kind of that grungy, fun, masculine look. But I also really, really like it, and we're going to sponge this on, with bright, sunny colors. Like, how fun is that? And it just really changes the look of that embossing folder. So even though it's not a color I would normally think to put on, I've got pink, yellow, and the blue, the Salvaged Patina. It really does work and just looks really fun and bright. And then I use some Vicky Bouton supplies on that. This is also that really great Spellbinders paper. I think it might be sold out right now. If you're interested in it, make sure you put in your name to be notified when it's back in stock. This was the brushed silver and gold cardstock. And look at the detail, like it's just amazing. This is the back. You could use either side. And then that's the detail and the shine if you have foil cardstock. So pretty. Yeah, Glenda, I normally wouldn't have, but I thought I was going to do some blending and it was just like, oh, I'm going to try that. So these are the other folders in that line. There's the waves. Beautiful, really great waves. I know Virginia had done a really beautiful background with some waves on it. And then this one is cool, especially for any masculine cards or Father's Day. You've got all the tools there in the background. And then this is an undersea one. I keep thinking that this would be really great with like a background that you have a mixed media or watercolor background, and then you've got all that really great detail embossed. And then you can add stuff up here. And then there is a couple more in the store if you look under Memory Box 3D. And that's a look at that one there with all those beautiful flowers. And they don't have the name right on it, but you'll recognize when you look in the shop if you're looking for it. Thanks, Rosie, for linking that. So that is a look at that. We also have the new Creative Scrapbooker Magazine in the store. And this is the summer issue. There's so many just amazing projects, and I love the paper that this is printed on. And I have a couple projects in here. So I actually created this little coffee card. It was with one of the Stamping Village stamps. I really love those stamps. And then I made this double page layout here with a kit from last year that Scrap Shotz had in the store. So it was a pink fresh kit with all the fun things. So if you are thinking about or wondering about the kits from the Kit Club, they are such an amazing deal. And the one that we're using today for this card, I'm using the May kit, and it's sold out right now, but Sandy said there are more coming in. So watch for that if you're interested in the Echo Park. It's now I can't remember the name of it. Adventure. It's totally escaped me. I'll have to look. Let's Go Anywhere. Let's Go Anywhere kit. So if you don't want to miss out on any kits, be sure to sign up. And the initial sign up is a 3-month membership, and they're always amazing. Really amazing. So I decided to use that product and make some cards today, and I've got some stuff to post on the blog as well. Let's go anywhere. That's right. Too much adventure in my mind. And yeah, so make sure you pick up the Creative Scrapbooker. Tons and tons of inspiration and so many familiar names. Just, it's so great to see all the people in the crafting community who put stuff in there. And if you're wondering about submitting for it, it's so easy. You just go to their website, and there's a submissions tab, and you literally just put a picture of the project you want to submit. And they let you know if they're what they're looking for in that issue. And then once the submissions close, they let you know if they've chosen anything. And also don't be discouraged if you don't have anything that's been chosen. There's been lots of times that I've submitted a ton of stuff and maybe have one thing that they're looking for, but maybe they're looking for that thing the next time. So keep trying, and it's a really great crafting community to be part of. So this is a look at some of the samples here, and we can do a few together as well. So I think I'm trying to think if there was anything else. We've got the oxide pad and the ink. And then I've got the embossing glaze, which is a translucent embossing powder, and it's really fine. It does a really great job doing fine detail stamped images, but there's a lot you can do with it. Then there's the paint, there's the oxide spray, there's also an ink spray, which I don't have, and I don't have the refills. And then you can get this little pin, which I think is super cute. So with the, let's see, with the paint, what I did was I painted these little wood veneers just with one coat, and you can see it's true to color. You get a really nice coat. I do love that all of these, no matter what product, you get that salvaged patina color. So it has the different properties depending on what product you're using, but it all is going to be that beautiful blue, light blue color. So the paint here, what I did with this was just put some paint and spread it out. My paintbrush was a little bit wet, and so it's a little bit translucent. It's completely flat, so you can go ahead and stamp on that, and you can do your techniques over that. That is not going to move now. It's completely permanent. And then this one here with some paint on the Vicki Boutin Foundations paper, and I honestly cannot say enough about this paper. I absolutely love it, and I can't believe that I hadn't used it before. It's a really nice thick weight of paper, and it really stands up well to being sprayed and mixed media. But if you just want to have it for a really nice sturdy cardstock, then it's perfect as well. So I've used it both ways so far and really, really love it. So you get kind of this really cool effect. This is just some paint on there, sprayed in water. Yeah, it's in stock, and it's been so hard to find. I think that's why I hadn't picked it up, is because every time it's in, it sells out immediately. It's a really great price. It's like $1 a sheet, and that's about the same as a piece of cardstock, but it's fabulous. So use it for your card backgrounds, whatever you want. So the paint here, let's see. What I'll do is grab a little tag. So it's actually, let's grab, I have a piece of that Foundations paper. Let's grab that. I just want to kind of give you an idea of how all of these work, and I didn't grab a paint brush, but I'm just going to use this water brush. So you've got the flip top, and it just squeezes out. It's not very thick. And then you can either just paint with it, you can move it around with water. While it's wet, it's going to move really great with water, and you're going to get some really cool effects. And as well, Tim Holtz has done lots of demos, and so he's demoed lots of things you can do with these paints, and that's worth checking out as well. So you can do all kinds of fun backgrounds, but you don't have to use water if you just want to paint it on. So that's so pretty, but you can really add that water and soften it out into this really pretty background. And when that dries, then you're going to be able to go over it, stamp over it, whatever you want, and it's not going to move. I'm just going to dry off or wipe off this so that the paint doesn't dry on there. So that's our paint. Then we have the embossing glaze. We're going to use that today, so in our card, so I won't do a sample right this second, but we'll see it used on the card. This is a look, this is one of the Vicki Boutin color study stamps, and I'm really, really loving these stamps. But this would be so cute, hi Katie, for doing swatches, this little paint splat. So I think I'm actually going to go and do all my Distress embossing glaze swatches with this. It looks so pretty, but it's a really great color, but it is translucent, so if you have a color under it, it's going to pick up that color or image. Here's another example, the glaze right here that I stamped on with Versamark and then embossed it, and that is from the other color study stamp set. This gives you an idea of the 3 different ways you could stamp with it. So this is the ink, the Distress ink, and then this is the oxide. And if you're using these for stamping, the oxide is a really nice stamping ink as well. With the ink, I love the ink for blending, and if you're doing an image that you're okay with having a little bit of that dye kind of, the image tends to be not quite as crisp, which is still fine depending on what you're looking for. But you can go ahead and use it for that. But if you're looking for more of a crisp image, then the oxide's really nice for stamping on. Then we have the, so the oxide we looked at here and the ink. And this is a look at the oxide ink pad just sponged on, and this is the Picket Fence Slimline Wave Stencil. So you've got those beautiful waves, and then you can start creating all kinds of fun watery backgrounds, and you can keep coming back to this. If you wanted to add more onto this, then you just re-wet it, and you're really, with the oxide, you're getting that kind of oxide look. So if you can really see when this was blended on with the blending foam, but if you wanted it darker, you could rub it on. And we can even try it with the ink. So you get more of a chalky look. And then the dye ink is, of course, that truer color that's translucent. So the oxide is definitely a more opaque ink. And then when you spray it on, you immediately get that beautiful oxidation, and then when you spray on the ink, you get that really great reaction with the water that the inks are known for. So just depending on what you're looking for, and you can mix and match these with colors. You can, you know, if you're doing some oxides and some inks, you can totally do that as well. So they're so beautiful. And I just find that it's hard to not actually add water to them, because you know you're going to see that kind of magic happen once you add the water. So that was the oxide. And then this was the ink. So very similar when you're sponging it on. This is a little bit lighter, but then you really have the difference when you add the water. But they're both beautiful. What do you guys find that's your favorite? Do you like the oxides or the inks, or can you pick a favorite? Sometimes it's hard to pick. And then I did just a little bit of playing around. So this is the background we're going to make with that card. And it was really easy, really fun. This was a background that I made just playing. I will take some photos of this after with the instructions, but I used the tarnished brass paint, and that was the technique that I was mentioning that I saw with the distress paint. And if you haven't watched Tim's demo of this color, he actually does it, but he does the antique brass, I think. Antique brass, and then I use tarnished bronze, one or the other. But it's kind of, you get this really cool effects, and then I just layered, but I will be sure to post this. And then this one here, I did the glaze over everything, and this is just on craft. So with those gears again, so you're just getting some really neat effects. Sometimes it's really important just to sit down and play with all this stuff. And this is the paint, and I painted the back of the craft and then started layering on some colors. So you really have that patina look. With the oxide spray, oh, I'm not sure if I showed you the spray. Here's the spray, which is beautiful. And if you're going to be smudging your backgrounds and dipping them, I think that you may as well buy the sprays and use your ink pads for other techniques, because it's so much easier to get the coverage if you're going for that kind of, if you're smudging your ink or your oxide pads on the background and adding the water and dipping it in. Sometimes it's honestly easier to just use the spray. So we've got some spray on there, and it's such a quick and easy background. And you can also do this through a stencil, and you can mix your oxide sprays. And then as soon as you add the water, you really, that's where you kind of really see this start to take effect. And then once it dries, you get that variation in the color. So it's really cool. And you can add extra water to that. You can take, this is another piece. Also with this Vicki Boutin paper, I was watching her do a live, and she said there's kind of like a gessoed effect that they put on the front of that paper, the foundations paper. So when you take it out of the pack, the top of the paper is what's has that effect, almost a gessoed effect, so that you can, your colors will move and blend. So if you're cutting it up, I just marked a little B on the back because the back doesn't have that layer on it. And then you're going to have better results by using the front of it. So you can really just have fun by dipping and playing and then layering. That's fun, hey? And then with the oxides, if you dry them a little bit in between, it doesn't have to be completely dry, but just starting to be dry, then that's when you start to be able to pick up. So Sandy said we're getting a few more of the ink pads in tomorrow, and then all of the, like the full set will be in stock if you're looking to stock up on everything. So yeah, then you get all of that goodness in color. And then you can layer other colors as well. So let's wipe this up. ink blends or the oxide blends are also really fun to do. And I usually just give my nozzle a little wipe, just so there's nothing that's there drying, and I really don't have any problem with anything getting clogged. The odd time, if you find that you can't spray and you've soaked it, they do have replacement sprayers that you can get, but I rarely have any issues. Now, if we wanted to, we could go in with even, this is Distress Oxide, the Squeezed Lemonade, and I don't have the spray right here, so if you don't have the spray handy, you can still use this technique. But if you have the sprays, then I would, this is ink, so ink is not going to give us as much of that oxidation, but just get your colors and play with them and mix them up. So we've got 3 different things. That's the Kitsch Flamingo, that's the newer pink. And we can just add those on. So the ink is translucent and you're going to get more of the color coming through that's underneath, whereas this oxide, you're going to get more of an opaque color and it's going to dry in layers. So if you felt that if you felt like that needed a little bit more blue there, you could go back and add some more blue. But it's just a really fun way to, you know, play around, find some color combinations that you like. I'm going to show you the color combination. I think that's a nice springtime one. It's very pretty. Then you can do some die cutting out of that. You could use this for a background. Let's see here. So this is the embossed image. This is just on plain white cardstock, and that's using that gear embossing folder. So for this, let's move these out of the way. For this one here, I used the Squeezed Lemonade in the oxide. Oh, and I used Distress ink and then the Distress Oxide in the Salvaged Patina, and just blended. And because any of your embossing folders are going to give you those raised areas, and I find the sponges, because they're just hitting those high parts, are going to really give you that detail. So I loved how these colors went together. So I find I start out by doing 3 areas. And then this is the ink. And you get the kind of purple color blending when you go over the blue. You could do this with the oxides or the inks. And then again, I'm just doing it in 3 different sections. And you can go back and add more if you want to do that as well. And then the Squeezed Lemonade, when it mixes with the blue, you get a really pretty green. Look how pretty that is. You can go in a little bit here. And then when it mixes with the pink, you get that orangey color. So to me, that just looks like fun. It looks like summer, like Ferris wheels and candy and flowers. And you totally get a completely different look. And then I went in with the Vicki Boutin Color Study ephemera and the stamps. The butterfly stamps are from the stamp set. And then I used the sticker book, which has a bazillion stickers in it. And just put the sticker on, and then I layered it on the 6x8 paper pad, which I think is still in stock, and then used the embellishments. So this is the ephemera. So very pretty, bright, sunshiny card. And now we will make that more masculine card just by changing it up and using the craft cardstock and then the different colors. What are you guys planning for the long weekend? Any plans? Any camping plans? Everybody always goes camping, and I hope that the weather isn't too bad. We don't have any plans. Let's get this stuff out here. So we've got, now this is the instructions for if you want to snap a screenshot or anything, or you can come back to this and pause it. But these are the instructions we're going to follow. You're hanging around home, Rosie? Okay, so we have our card back, which we'll use in a minute. This paper is from that kit, the May kit, that Sandy's going to get some more in. We're going to use a piece of craft cardstock, and I cut a circle, and the circles that we're using are from the Pink Fresh diagonal stitch circles, and I think those are still in this shop as well. These I've used a lot. So you get this circle here, and then we're going to cut a smaller one, and then you get two other smaller ones in the pack. You're isolated, so staying home and crafting with the kids. Well, staying home and crafting sounds good to me. Okay, we've also got a few embossing powders here, and this has been really great, and I saw that it's restocked, so I thought we'll pull it out and play with it. The Avriel White Ink Spray. Okay, so this gears folder, I wanted to show you how nicely it embossed. You're hanging out close to home. Yeah, I think I've got some crafting things I want to work on, and if it gets a little bit nicer, we'll go out. And I'm sure we'll get out at some point. It's not like it's the Arctic, it's just not as nice as it has been. So because these are thicker, you don't need all your plates that you would for a regular embossing folder. So for my Cuttlebug, I just use my base, and then I use my cutting plate. But if you just play around with the plates that you have and see what works, and I just find, you know, as long as it isn't hard to go in, you're not forcing anything in. So depending on the folder, sometimes I add, you know, a couple shims of paper if it needs a little more pressure. So there's that beautiful dimension. It looks great just on craft. Okay, so we've got that. Okay, and then we are going to use the Salvaged Patina. So we've got that in the oxide. We've got Crackling Campfire. This is one of the newer ones. Yeah, don't try to force it. If it feels like it's not going through, take it out, put something less in, because you definitely don't want anything to crack. So that's all I do. If it feels like it's just not going in, I just take it out and use a different plate. And Rustic Wilderness, and I used that in the ink. So we've got as well, this is one of the newer greens, and then Ground Espresso is a brown, and it's one of the older colors. So we're just going to ink with these. Now the fun thing as well about oxides is that they really show up nicely on dark cardstock or craft. We were hoping to go camping in the summer and rent a motorhome, and I tell you, it's been ridiculously hard. Look how pretty that looks. Ridiculously hard to rent a motorhome. You would not think. So there's a company that's called Outdoorsy, and we did go ahead and book something, and then the owner of the RV, because I think they use people who own their own RVs, and they agree to rent them out through this company for whatever fee, and the owner was unable to follow through with renting the campers, so that was fine. That got canceled. And then we were going to book with another lady, and we read the reviews, and it's like people were saying she didn't have them ready on time, and then we're like, oh no, like we didn't even think about this kind of thing. So we didn't go ahead with that, and then we found somebody privately who was trying, and it was seemed really sketchy. So we didn't go through with that. And then we looked at that. I think there's a Canna Dreams is a company that does it, but it was like $5,000 for 10 days in an RV. I'm like, I'm not. So I don't know what we'll do yet, but I guess we'll see. But I'm not feeling the tenting vibe this year. Okay, then this is the Ground Espresso. And we're just rubbing that around the edges. So we've got really fun colors on here. It looks really rustic, kind of that rusty patina vibe right now. You could completely leave it like this. So these colors blended look amazing. And we could leave it, but we're not going to. So we're going to move these out of the way. And we do want to just heat it a little bit. We're going to put some embossing ink on, and the oxides stay wet for a while after, and I just don't want it to stick to as much ink as there. Thanks, Stacy. So I'm just going to give it a little shot with the heat gun. We're not looking for a perfect image, so we don't have to worry too much. Then we've got the Versamark ink, and this is a sticky ink that will hold our embossing powder. We're going to be using the Salvaged Patina glaze. The embossing glazes are really fun. So we're just going to open that up so we can kind of sprinkle some on. This one here is the Rustic Wilderness glaze. And you can use them by themselves, like just to emboss a sentiment, or you can use them together and mix the colors. Move that stuff out of the way. Okay, so all I'm doing, I'm not pressing down because I don't want the glaze to go over everything. Now, that other sample that we did that I had glaze over everything, it looked really cool, but I just don't want it for this one. So all I'm doing is lightly going over. I also don't care if it hits everything. So I'm just going for kind of a grungy look. So we've got the ink on there, and I need a piece of paper. Oops. I'm dropping my kids' stuff on the floor. Okay, so we've got just a piece of paper to catch the embossing powder. And what I'm gonna do is sprinkle this in different places because I'm adding different colors. So I'm kind of, but I'm not really worrying about it, I'm kind of putting the colors where I had the colors of the ink. And then if you have some on your hand, just make sure you wipe it off before you grab the next embossing powder, because you don't want to get them all contaminated, even though I'm sure eventually they will be. And then we have the crackling campfire, which is perfect for summer. And I really barely used anything. These last for such a long time. Okay, and so Tim Holtz says, pat it from underneath to get the powders to move around rather than just tipping it. And then it kind of connects to all those areas that had the ink in it, and then we can tip it off. So you can see we didn't even get that much that fell off. I wouldn't bother saving that because I think if you melted it, it would just melt as one color into like a brown color, and I don't need that. So we're gonna move that over there. Okay, then we're going to heat emboss it. So if you want, if you're not sure if it's going to blow around a little bit, or sometimes if you have a thicker powder as well, you can start heating from underneath. And then the powder doesn't blow around, but you can see it start to melt, and you really get such a great variation in the colors. And that crackling campfire almost looks rusty. Hi, Lorraine. We're just doing some embossing with the Distress glazes. So I'm just watching it to, I don't want to overheat it, I'm just watching it to make sure all the parts are just shiny and melted. Yeah, I think I got everything. Thank you, Lorraine. So how pretty is that? It just kind of takes it up a notch and really adds a really pretty layer. So you can see just by, you could stop at each point, or you could do some more. And then I used yellow, light blue, and black. These are the Vicky Bouton crayons. These are also back in stock, and they've been really fun to work with. And all I did with this, I'm gonna add a little bit of water here, is I colored directly on my background, and then you can get your finger just a tiny bit wet. You don't want it like really soaking wet. Thanks, Rosario. And that's going to take that crayon and start blending it, the embossing powder will resist the crayon, but it'll go into all the other areas that don't have the embossing powders in them. So that's the light blue, and you can see it just really gives it a pretty pop of color. And I'm pressing really quite hard, but it's not affecting those raised areas. So just by standing back and looking at it, you can kind of tell if there's areas that you feel need more. Isn't it cool? But that just blends it out. And you could completely just use this as your background. So I think that looks pretty good. Hi, Ellie. Thanks, Katie. Thanks, Rosario. Then we can choose what we want to cut out. So this is using that Pink Fresh die cut set, circle die. So I am going to find the rest of my pieces here. So I kind of want to set it up as the other card. So I know, like, if I put it here, I think I kind of like this area right here. So that's what I'm going to die cut. So we'll just tape that on, and this is just going to die cut a circle. And then you could start with the circle if you want to, but I kind of like having that background, and then I can choose what I like. And then you still have this area there that you could do whatever you like with. So there is that beautiful circle piece. And the rest of the card is really basic to put together. So I've made 2 layouts with the kit of the month, the May kit so far. And I really have lots left over, and 2 cards, and I'll get those posted on the blog. And I've got lots more to choose from to get more pictures done. So we've got this outside circle. There's so many fun elements to this paper. If you're wondering as well what's in the kit, you can go back, and a couple weeks ago I actually showed everything that was in that kit. And this was just regular craft cardstock. You could do it on white as well. You'd get a different effect. So we've got this really great plain, and this was from, so in the kit, the chipboard accents, that's where I got that from. And then I also grabbed the enamel dots. So we'll add this airplane on here. And this was from the cut apart sheet with the black stripes on the back. And so I just used a little die cut that was almost the same size, and it had a little stitching line around. And I think I'm gonna put that there, but just, yeah. So you could make a whole set of these, that would be fun. I like making sets of cards kind of with leftover stuff from kits and then giving them as teacher gifts or a birthday gift that I'm doing for someone. And this will stick to this. This glue is really great, but you do have to let it dry a little bit. And there's something there, but we're really not going to worry about it. I feel like maybe that should have been popped up, but it's going to be fine. And then we've got our enamel dots. Do you guys find that you dig into your 12 by 12 pads to make cards? Sometimes I don't think of it. I'm going to put enamel dot over that little blop. There we go. Always cover up your mistakes with sequins or enamel dots. And then maybe we'll put a couple right up here. Thank you, Danielle. Is it Danielle or Danielle? So there's our little airplane card with our pretty mixed media background. And there it is with the little camper, which is really cute as well. So I will try to turn you around without making you sick and see if we can say hi. Oh. Yeah, so that's our cards. That's a look at those fun distress products if you haven't tried them out. French. Yes, you knew that I was talking to you. Well, that's good. Thanks, Jennifer. Thanks, Lorraine. Yeah, if you guys like the color, Sandy said she'll be getting the ink pads restocked in this shop. So those will all be in there. The kit is in there if you ever want more details on. There's a page that you can click on. It tells you all the details for the kit. And you can go back and watch any videos that are on the Scrap Shotz page if you want to find out how to do some projects that you're not sure how to use your products for. There's lots of products there. If you have questions about products or demos that you'd like to see, please let us know. So Sandy mentioned that someone had asked about heat gun questions, so maybe we'll look at that next week. Sandy's going to be on in just a couple minutes, and she's going to show you some awesome kit bundles that she has put together so you can get some scrapbooking done and get your scrapbooking all planned for the summer. And yeah, just have fun crafting. I hope you guys have an awesome long weekend and get some crafting done, get some time to relax. And we'd love to see what you're sharing in the Scrap Shotz paper crafting group as well. So thanks for hanging in and crafting, and check back on the page in just a minute, and then Sandy will be live for a double header, and she'll be showing you all the fun things. So thanks for all the likes, guys. Thanks, Sandy. We'll see you later.